There is a theory that has now arisen on the right that there is something deeply malign about the United States, something deeply wrong with the United States. This was made apparent over the weekend. Tucker Carlson was on Joe Rogan's show. Obviously, I'm very friendly with Joe. I think Joe does a great job during his interviews. And there was a clip from this interview that went particularly viral. This is a clip in which Tucker Carlson calls the United States evil for having dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, ending World War II, and then suggests that anyone who would justify that is also evil, which is a very traditionally left-wing perspective.
So Ben Shapiro is at it again, making enemies, starting infighting on the right, because his idea of the right is the only one that matters, apparently.
Traditionally a particularly right-wing perspective, because most people on the conservative side of the aisle tend to believe that America is a force for good in the world. And as we'll discuss, it turns out that dropping the atomic bomb on Japan was necessary for ending World War II and likely saved millions of lives, both American and Japanese. But here is Tucker.
Well, you could say the same about the atomic bomb, right?
Yes, you could.
And you could say that we have to develop it like Oppenheimer felt before the Nazis
I
did.
love that. How'd that work? How'd that work?
Well,
I love, by the way, that people on my side, I'll just admit it, on the right, have spent the last 80 years defending dropping nuclear weapons on civilians. Like, are you joking?
right.
That's just like prima facie evil.
Yeah.
If you can't, well, if we hadn't done that, then this, that, the other thing, that was actually a great savings. Like, no, it's wrong to drop nuclear weapons on people. And if you find yourself arguing that it's a good thing to drop nuclear weapons on people, then you are evil. Like it's not a tough one, right? It's not a hard call for you. It's not a hard call for me. So with that in mind, like, why would you want nuclear weapons? It's like just a mindless, childish sort of intellectual exercise to justify, like, oh no, it's really good because someone else will get it. How about no? How about?
Yeah, I think that majority of people could probably agree with this. But what's really funny is that Ben Shapiro is saying that this is absolutely outrageous, to say this is inappropriate, you can't do this. But I want to pull this tweet here from the CEO of Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring. And what he says right here is that people who deny the moon landing or suggest America is evil for its use of atomic weapons against Imperial Japan, or who say that George Bush was behind 9/11, actually hate this country. And what did Ben Shapiro just say? Oh, that's typically a left way of thinking. Really? That's a left-wing way of thinking? Well, it seems like that's exactly what Jeremy Boring said. When was this? April 21st, 2024. And now you guys are eating your words because it's the pendulum swinging in a different direction. And you guys are trying to use leftist tactics and it's not working. And so you're going to try and act like you're the real right. I find this behavior just so childish.
Like spending all of your effort to prevent this from happening.
Okay, actually, what would be childish is to assume that there are no other players in the world, for example, trying to develop nuclear weapons. The fact is the Nazis were trying to develop nuclear weapons. There was, in fact, a nuclear arms race that was happening at the time. Not only that, as it turns out, the Soviet Union then developed nuclear weapons. And it is mutually assured destruction and nuclear deterrence that has kept the world largely from sinking into another World War III-like mass casualty morass because of the horror of dropping the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the first place. By the way, when he says things like, how exactly would you justify, why are we talking about how many lives it would save? It's just wrong to drop the bomb. Well, no, actually, if you end up saving more lives than are cost by the dropping of the atomic bomb, then it is morally justified to drop the atomic bomb. And that happens to be the reality of the situation. Evan Thomas.
Oh my gosh. He is trying to say that he knows for a fact that if this bomb wasn't dropped and these people weren't killed in mass amounts of numbers, that more people would have ended up dying. How can you sit there trying to take yourself seriously and act as if you know that that's the case? You don't know that that's the case. You don't know that that's the truth. Actually, you're just telling the world your theory. That is not fact. That is just your opinion.
Wrote in the Washington Post fairly recently, the commanders of the Japanese armed forces were fanatics. On August 9th, after Washington dropped the second bomb on Nagasaki, Japan's war minister, General Korichika Anami, asked his fellow members of the Supreme War Council, quote, Would not it be wondrous for the whole nation to be destroyed like a beautiful flower? The rulers were fatalistic about taking the rest of the nation with them. The 1 million will die for the emperor was a common headline in the state-controlled press, even after Hiroshima and Nagasaki had been destroyed, and after the Russians had even invaded Japanese-occupied Manchuria. 6 members of the Supreme War Council deadlocked 3-3 on whether to surrender. After the dropping of the second bomb, when Emperor Hirohito decided that he wanted to end the debate and surrender, he had to run away from members of his own military who were threatening to kidnap him and who were trying to find the recording of him surrendering before it could be broadcast on radio to destroy the recording. So, yes, it turns out that it was necessary. By the way, if we had not dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the alternative was either an amphibious assault that would have cost probably 1 million American lives, or, more likely, a giant blockade of the island of Japan, including the mass starvation of the civilian population, which would have resulted in millions of dead Japanese.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm Ben Shapiro. I talk really fast. Shut up. We're so sick of you. Man, give us Tucker, give us Thomas Massey, give us all the people that you hate. That's how you know America is going to change. That's the litmus test. If Ben Shapiro is going to fire you, if Ben Shapiro is going to hate you, then we want you on our side. Now, when Jeremy Boring put this tweet out, the people were so against it. Most people coming in the comment section. Remember when you said the exact opposite in an X space that you tweeted a few months prior about Candace? You lack self-awareness. I'm laughing hysterically at you as we speak. From Legendary Energy. Let's hear.
But the Daily Wire is a publication, right? We publish, we curate. I pay people to speak. I'm not just a platform where everybody can kind of build their own account and say the things that they want to say. I pay people, and I'm not going to pay people to say things that go beyond certain lines of what I believe. Why would I do that?
Just a few months ago, the CEO of Daily Wire, who just said that, said, "In my current capacity, I cannot fire Candace Owens. That's something Ben and I have in common since he is also not an executive in the company and cannot hire or fire people. But even if we could, we would not fire Candace because of another thing we have in common, a desire not to regulate the speech of our hosts even when we disagree with them. Candace is paid to give her opinion, not mine or Ben's. Unless those opinions run afoul of the law or she violates the terms of her contract in some way, her job is secure and she is welcome at Daily Wire."
It's actually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. It's really not funny. It's really not funny. It's really messed up. And it's, disgusting that somebody who's a top-level guy at a corporation in right-wing media can say this, not be held accountable, do the exact opposite, and it doesn't matter. And people like this who have followings, who are loved and adored, they should not be trusted. They are not acting ethically. And this should call into question not just them, but their entire company. Companies in America that are going to act as though they love America and act as though they're for Americans, they should at the very least have integrity. And this lacks all integrity. It's disgusting. And that's all I have to say about it. You guys continue to be the hypocrites. You guys continue to dunk on yourselves because you're nothing more than grifters and liars. That's it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.